So here's a wild idea. The future of pop music might actually be classical music. You think about it, the artists who last, the ones that you're listening to decades and decades later, they all have some element of classical music, whether it's the training, the harmony, or even their instrumentation. So stick with me today because I'm going to show you what I think the reason is for this, and I'm going to give you evidence for it too. Okay, here's your first bit of evidence, the band Chicago. Most of the members were college trained in classical and jazz techniques, and you can hear it in the way they use brass instruments. It's not just hits and stabs, it's a real ensemble that helps to shape the music. And the result of that is a signature sound that you just don't hear in any other group. Another band, which you can't not mention, of course, is the Beatles, along with George Martin. Of course, we know George Martin was classically trained and he helped score a lot for later Beatles tunes, including all sorts of orchestral instruments. But it's important to remember that the Beatles themselves had a classical background, not formal training, but they had it in their ears from their childhood. So you've got tunes like Yesterday and Eleanor Rigby, which have at least a string quartet in them. I think one might even have a double quartet in them. You've got She's Leaving Home, which has a harp as the main chordal instrument, which is amazing, and small chamber ensemble. And then, of course, you have A Day in the Life, which has that huge orchestral swell, which Paul McCartney and George Martin worked on together. And this is just scratching the surface because we know that the Beatles used all sorts of advanced harmony, irregular meters, extended forms, and many other very advanced and quite sophisticated elements that come from either directly or indirectly classical music and that really make their music sound unique. I think every single tune you listen to doesn't sound like the previous one. It's very rare to hear that nowadays. And then, of course, there's ELO. You may remember from the 1970s, the Electric Light Orchestra. And this is basically a rock band with an orchestra blended into it. And you can hear all the rock elements, but at the same time, powerful Beethovenian-like gestures coming from the orchestra. Now, I think that's one of the most obvious blends of pop and classical elements working together to make a real commercial success. Now, I'm sure you know about Elton John. He's had huge lasting power, and I know you know that he plays the piano well, but did you know that he trained at the Royal Academy of Music? His songwriting makes good use of the piano and all sorts of textures that he definitely would have learned while he was there. And it's probably also the reason why his ballads sound so expansive and symphonic and unique. Now, of course, we have to mention Queen. We know that Freddie Mercury really liked opera and those operatic gestures, which you can see very clearly in the very famous tune Bohemian Rhapsody. There's so many elements of that sort of shortened little operetta there that comes from that tradition, and even the way the music video is filmed. And also the way the guitar parts are layered has a very orchestral quality to them, even though they're electric amplified guitars. Next up, we have Billy Joel, obviously an excellent piano player as well as a singer. He literally wrote a song called The Piano Man. Well, he has a lifelong background in classical music. He even put out a classical music CD. And in one of his tunes, he actually makes use of Beethoven's Pathetique Piano Sonata. There's no doubt that in some of his tunes, much of the harmonic and melodic language comes straight from the classical literature. I think you'll see that modern pop sometimes does make use of these classical elements. Look at an artist like Björk, which has choirs and strings and through composed melodies. And then there's someone like Lady Gaga, who, as outlandish as she may seem, also has a classical background and has a jazz background as well. Check out her album she did with Tony Bennett. Amazing voice, great jazz singer. And then you have the film score influence, people like Hans Zimmer, who blends these things, and not just him, who blend pop and classical elements. It gives it a special, unique quality. So why does this matter? Why do I say that classical might be the future of pop? Well, for one thing, think about it. AI is starting to flood the market with fake bands, fake music, formulaic. It can only base its music on what it's heard before. Classical music, at least for now, is going to give something special that makes it stand out. You've got unique timbres, real instruments, very unique harmonic and melodic innovation, complex harmonic progressions, and structural innovations as well. Often in pop music, classical music doesn't make itself overtly known. It's sort of there under the hood working to make the music more unique. And that might be just the thing that we need in this new age of music, especially with AI knocking at the door. So I think if you want to know the future of pop music, actually look to the past, both the classical music world, the jazz music world, but also the pop music world of the past decades, and see how they used it. I think that's going to be the thing that saves both pop music and maybe even classical music as well. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.